Hello everyone and welcome to another Topcon Solutions Bluebeam tips and tricks video. I am your host David Campbell, and for today's video I thought it would be kind of good to go over profiles. Okay, so I've been asked quite a few questions recently about how to use profiles, what they do, and of course, like I said, I wanted to share some tips and tricks with all of you today on some different ways that profiles can be used and um, how to take information and store it with our profile. So I've covered a little bit of this in previous videos, so you will see some overlap here, but let's go ahead and get started. So right up under the review tab, now this is for versions 2018 and above, right? 2017. You're going to probably look under that the view menu there to look for your profiles. But we're going to go to review and then profiles, right? So from the beginning, as soon as you download Bluebeam Review, you should notice that you're going to have 4 profiles: review, review advanced, quantity takeoff, and field issues. Now, if we look down below, this is where you'll see that manage profiles. So this is where you can go, of course, to create and modify, export, things like that, your different profiles. Now, for some tips and tricks, okay, one thing, when you're going to export a profile, I like that little button right there, include dependencies. Okay, what does that mean? Well, that means that it's going to take all of the things that are dependent on it, right? In this sense, with a profile, a lot of times we'll talk about the overall like toolbars, okay, how they're organized, what toolbars are, let's say, even showing, or if you have any custom toolbars. So if we did customize and make some of those toolbars here and save them into our profile, that is kind of one of those things that will, populate or stay with that profile, okay? Now, another big thing is the tool sets, right? Our tool sets. You'll see if I switch over to the field issues profile here. And let's get to my tool set. There it is. You'll see it comes up with my punch keys, right? So these profiles, they kind of control or remember the organization of your interface along with, let's say, what panels that you're using, what tool sets you're using. It even goes down to the markups list. So this is another part of the conversation that I wanted to have with profiles. Now, with the markups list, and I covered this with the takeoff workflow, if many of you haven't gotten into that yet, we do have the capability to create custom columns. Now, this doesn't have to be, of course, from a takeoff perspective. It can be as far as assigning responsibility from a PM kind of workflow, all the way to just putting in more information, specs, or really anything that you may need to push into these comments. Again, just to try and help with whatever it is, your review, your QTO, your punch walk, whatever process kind of workflow that you have. These custom columns are there to help you, again, kind of share or find that information, whether, again, it's whatever it is. You can use that filter list, right, to go ahead and find it and then sort and filter through some of your different columns here, ascending, descending order, right, to help you find that information. Now, the big thing, of course, that I wanted to make sure that I talk about here is that while you do create, if you do create, excuse me, if you do create those custom columns, you want to make sure that you save them to your profile, okay? In that sense, when you save them to your profile, they're there, right? And again, include dependencies, right? That little button we were talking about when you go to export those profiles, it's going to make sure that this information goes with it, okay? That is big, especially when you're sharing these profiles. So one thing that I wanted to talk about as well, if I go to review and I go to my profile, let's say I go to my manage profiles and I have this awesome structural steel profile that I actually brought in from Bluebeam's website. Now I'm going to export this profile and I'm going to put this right on my desktop. and I'm going to hit save. Now, cool thing about this, right? Anytime I make a change to that profile, I go profiles, here's save profile. So I'm going to go into that structural steel profile here. Now, the interesting thing to think about, of course, many of you are asking, can we do this in a network location? Yes, you can put it in a network or shared location, right? In that sense, if you put it in the network or shared location, when you have others that are going to add that profile, they would go review, profiles, manage. This time, they can go ahead and either hit add, of course, to create their own, or they want to import. Okay, and at that point, you could go ahead, find that profile, and then open it. Now it's going to tell me, of course, that it already exists, but then they have that profile. And as that profile updates, they can go ahead and take those changes with it. Okay. Now, again, I mean that as in, you'll notice that my properties have actually switched over. My measurements are over here on the left side. If that kind of bugs you, of course, we can take those back, switch them however we need to. Okay. But again, the profile is remembering this. Okay. Another kind of tip or trick here. When you're going into a studio session, a lot of times we want to kind of think about how we need to have that column information, those tool sets, things like that. We need to have a lot of that already lined up, our layers, a lot of that type of stuff. We need to have a lot of that already figured out before that document goes into the session. So if you have a lot of that information saved into your profile, right, we can go ahead and essentially push it into that document before it goes up to that session. Okay, so that's another kind of thought process there to help us use profiles. Now, some of you are also asking, Dave, why do we have multiple profiles? Well, a good answer for that is if you have some different, let's say, types of workflows, if you are doing design review and you do need to wear another hat and do some QTOs, or you need to do a walkthrough, anything like that, if you are doing the whole owner's rep kind of thing, it helps to be able to have the right tools. Right now, do you need multiple profiles? No, you don't. No. I mean, I would say that we could create different tool sets, of course, and stack those different tools for the usage there, right? But the thought process then begins to be what's up with the markups list, right? The reports that we're pulling are all of those, columns the same? Are they? Most likely not. We need to pull different information based on the process that we're kind of going through within Bluebeam Review, right? If we have profiles, of course, those profiles will switch those for us. But of course, you can utilize those columns in one profile and then just turn them on or off. Or if you want to be really savvy with it, build your filter lists, right? Build those filter lists or those configurations for your summaries here. If we get into our summaries, build those configurations out. If you can go ahead and select the the columns and do a filter, anything like that, and save that configuration, moving forward, it may give you another reason not to need multiple profiles. But then again, it's all the way that you use it. Okay. Now, in terms of sharing those profiles, there is another way that we can shoot that information out, and that would be with the deployment itself. So it's kind of nice to think about that we can actually push some of these profiles that we may need, whether it's structural steel, it's a takeoff workflow, whatever it is. We can kind of standardize the interface itself for our company, either through those deployments or, again, just exporting it, putting it on a shared drive and saying, let's use this. Now, another way to kind of think about that, right, is that if we utilize the profile, we push it out and we're going to deploy it, we set all of our configurations and everything, we can go ahead and control how many profiles are there right from the beginning. And again, kind of how our beginning users are going to see and interpret that interface. Okay, so, excuse me, but we can help with that transition. And I feel like that's a very overlooked part of getting into a new software or really getting further into Bluebeam Review is finding those features that you're using, right? And you know, we all know that we want to grow and use more in this program if it's capable of it, but at this, you know, at the beginning stage, it's good to not overwhelm. So let's hide some of those tabs, those panels, get rid of the ones we may not need. Set that profile to where we have maybe some of our scripted tools set up onto our toolbar, which, by the way, I will be making a tips and tricks video for those scripted tools coming up soon here. But whether it's the scripted tools, it's the toolbars, you know, the panels, the columns, whatever it is, saving these profiles and helping to standardize this interface, again, is going to help with that adoption or that transition and optimization of Bluebeam Review. All right. Well, I think that's it for me. Thank you again, everyone, for joining me for another video. I look forward to making these videos, and I just want to thank all of you for spending time with us, and I hope these are very helpful. If you guys need anything, please reach out. If you have any feedback about the videos, again, please reach out. We love hearing from you, and we would love to help however we can. If you're curious about further training, or again, kind of what other tips and tricks or what have you are out there, just let us know. Thank you again.